As Netanyahu carves Lebanon out of the ceasefire, Iran is firing back with a clear red line. If attacks don't stop, Tel Aviv will pay the price? Is Iran's threat to force Israel into halting its Lebanon campaign about to trigger a new round of escalation on the very first day of the truce? As Trump preaches peace and sells a 2-week ceasefire with Iran, why is Netanyahu still raining fire on Lebanon? With missiles still flying and fresh threats on the table, is this fragile ceasefire doomed to crack immediately as Iran signals it is ready for more attacks? Hours after Trump's ceasefire announcement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement that stunned many observers. Netanyahu said he welcomed the US-Iran ceasefire but stressed that the truce does not include Lebanon, signaling Israel would keep striking there. His remarks followed Trump's April 7 declaration of a 2-week halt on US attacks on Iran as part of a temporary ceasefire arrangement. Israeli PMO's statement read, quote, Israel supports President Trump's decision to suspend strikes against Iran for 2 weeks subject to Iran immediately opening the straits and stopping all attacks on the US, Israel and countries in the region. Israel also supports the US effort to ensure that Iran no longer poses a nuclear, missile and terror threat to America, Israel, Iran's Arab neighbors and the world. The United States has told Israel that it is committed to achieving these goals, shared by the US, Israel and Israel's regional allies, in the upcoming negotiations. The 2-week ceasefire does not include Lebanon. Soon after Netanyahu's statement, Lebanese media reported new attacks hitting areas in southern Lebanon. This escalation came as the IDF called on Lebanese civilians in the southern city of Tyre to evacuate, warning of a deteriorating security situation. In response, Iran issued a fresh warning, threatening Israel with major retaliation if it continued military operations in Lebanon. Tehran said that if firing did not stop in Lebanon, its air and missile units would bomb Tel Aviv in response. Hezbollah also issued its own warning, vowing that it would bring the enemy to its knees if attacks continued. Israel reported fresh missile attacks from Iran on the night of April 7th to 8th, just as news of a truce was confirmed, claiming the barrages had continued despite public talk of de-escalation. According to Israeli officials, Iran fired 2 to 3 distinct waves of missiles since Trump announced the ceasefire, suggesting that launches continued even after Washington's declaration. The Israeli military said some of the incoming Iranian missiles were successfully intercepted by its air defense systems, according to accounts carried by local media. The IDF also claimed that a number of those missiles were equipped with deadly cluster warheads, designed to break up in mid-air and scatter bomblets over wide urban areas. One ballistic missile attack targeting southern Israel triggered warning sirens across the region, as residents were urged to seek immediate shelter. That particular missile aimed at the south was later intercepted before impact, and authorities reported no injuries in that incident. Soon after, Iran launched additional missiles towards central and northern Israel, according to the IDF, broadening the scope of the latest barrage. Impacts were reported in central Israel, possibly caused by cluster submunitions or falling fragments from intercepted missiles, leading to multiple scattered impact sites. Rescue teams rushed to the areas where debris fell, though initial reports indicated there were no immediate casualties, only material damage. Subsequently, sirens sounded yet again in southern Israel as fresh missiles were detected and tracked inbound, keeping large parts of the country on edge. Earlier on the evening of April 7th, President Donald Trump had confirmed that a ceasefire had been agreed after more than a month of intense war with Iran. Trump announced a suspension of planned new bombing of Iran once a self-imposed deadline for that same day was reached, framing it as a step toward de-escalation. In response, Iran stated that if attacks against it stopped, it would cease defensive operations, indicating a conditional willingness to halt its own strikes. Trump stressed that the truce was contingent on Iran completely, immediately, safely reopening the Strait of Hormuz, tying the pause in fighting to restore global shipping through the key choke point. Tehran said that for the 2-week period, shipping through the Strait of Hormuz would be possible via coordination with its military, signaling that it intended to keep tight control but allow limited passage. Trump said Iran's 10-point proposal was a workable basis on which to negotiate, describing it as a serious framework for moving toward a broader settlement. He added that almost all of the various points of contention had been agreed between the US and Iran, arguing that only a few outstanding issues remained. According to Trump, the 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated, portraying the ceasefire as a window to lock in a more durable deal. For its part, Iran said its decision was based on a US request to negotiate on a broader 15-point proposal. Iran also emphasized that Washington had accepted Tehran's 10-point draft as a framework for discussions. Trump also noted that the truce had been finalized based on talks with Pakistan's Prime Minister and Army Chief, highlighting Islamabad's behind-the-scenes role in mediating between Washington and Tehran.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.